Good evening, or good afternoon, as I should say, everyone. Once I figure out what the heck is going on. There we go. Oh, it's been a long week. So I am Yang Yan Zhao. I am back. We have two extra special guests today, a dynamic duo, if you will. We will see if their Wonder Twin powers will activate for their fantasy world. Just a couple of quick announcements. Tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock, I think. Wait a minute. I better check. Since I see him in the audience, it is 9. Yes, 9 o'clock. No, it's 8 o'clock. Christmas week. Okay, 8 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday. The one, the only, Jack McCarthy. He will be by. We are going to be talking gaming. We are going to be talking goblins and special holiday gifts and things to look forward to in the year of our Lord 2026. After that, next year, format changes. Well, there will be more draw streams once I am clear of a couple things here in December. There will be a lot more drawing going on at random times. I will try to pick a day eventually, but check it out. Keep your eye out for notices over on X and here on Twitter. We will see that. And hopefully, if everything goes correctly, we will be starting a new feature where people will come on and we're just going to game. Especially people when they are creating new modules or new gaming systems. We'll take them for a test spin and see how it works. And so today we have a couple all the way across this pond who I'm sure are butting up against their bedtimes because they are successful adults who have real lives and jobs. But in addition to that, in their secret lairs, they have come together to fight the forces of boredom and produce excellent tabletop content, which we'll talk about today. So first, the main man, Dean.
Hiya, Yang. How are you doing?
I am excellent. And we have the mistress of tabletop gaming, Vickey.
Hello, Yang. Thank you for having us on.
Well, thank you for coming. It was very interesting for me because a couple of weeks ago, I had made a note to myself, oh, I should really get Dean and Vickey on to talk about Untold Destiny and their mapping software. And that same day, I just happened to get a note from you about going on your show. So it is kismet, as they say. So I guess the first question is, how did you two get into gaming? Is it something that you got into after you were together, or both of you sort of found love with D20s, or how did that work?
I think I'll let you start because you started gaming before me.
I started gaming a lot
so you
longer
start with
before
yours,
you.
and then I'll come in and join in once I've demisted my glasses.
I was originally from Africa, Zimbabwe, and over there, my first experience of role playing was the fighting fantasy books, and I did a load of other books. Eventually, got my hands on Tunnel and Trolls, which was the first sort of mass, as in tabletop based role play. But it was me on my own, so I managed to get some of their solo books. Loved it. One of my cousins, when I was on holiday in England, had a book on how to play D&D. And it didn't have any rules, but it just talked about this mystical game. And I had all this imaginations of what it would be like to be at that table doing that. So when we moved to Wales, at the first opportunity, I went and got the red box set, basic D&D, and started to go through it and fell in love with it. And at that point, Sorry, honey, is your door shut? I'm just quickly checking.
There is a little bit of an echo.
There is a bit of an echo, yeah.
Bear with me. I do believe that our naughty children have opened my door.
Okay. So I started to get into the rules, to have a good look at this, and I was falling in love with it. There was a shop called FC Parker's in Cardiff, and it was a treasure trove of these role play games, and I loved it. And in there, they had a notice board, so I put up a little sign saying, looking for a table to join, and got a call on the landline. We didn't have mobiles back then. And I found a couple of players, and I was over the moon. So this was it. I was around a table playing D&D for the first time ever. Absolutely loved it. And then I started to run D&D basic, and then moved into second edition. Did a bit of first edition, but second edition had kind of just come out around that time. And I fell in with a group of which one of my good friends, Ian, was part of this group, and I ran a campaign for them that went over a number of years, and we absolutely loved it. And then we kind of fell out of contact. And it was several years later, I decided that I would go back to university to get a software engineering degree, because there was a kind of a ceiling. Unless you had a degree, you couldn't get above the ceiling. So I went back as a mature student, and lo and behold, Ian was also at the same university, and it was a blast from the past. It was fantastic. We met, we reminisced for a bit, and then do you want to take over for the next part, Vicky?
I will indeed. So I went to university in Wales. I am actually from England, but I moved to Barry Island, or Barry, when I was sort of a young kid, grew up there. And I went to university in Glamorgan, so Glamorgan University. And there I joined the War Games and Roleplay Society. I've always been a lurker in the library. I've always read fantasy. I've always been into fantasy, but I've never had the opportunity at this point to roleplay. So I went along to the War Games and Roleplay Society. Now, on the same course as me, and someone I knew was Ian. And guess what? This one day, I'm in the nightclub, which was where we used to role play, because they had some tables around the side. And he comes running in, and he goes, you know that guy I told you, that GM you'd absolutely love. He's here. You got to come and meet him. Anyway, he dragged me into the pub, which was sort of next door, and Dean was there playing pool. I didn't see anyone else, and I knew the second I saw him that we were going to marry, which is absolutely bizarre. And then we spent the next 2 weeks chasing each other around the university, and then I asked him out. The question is, do you think the chat want to know the chat-up line I used?
Well, I certainly do.
So how does this sound? Are we going to go for it then, or what?
We're that sophisticated.
It was
nice. Well,
yeah.
It's great when a woman doesn't beat around the bush, You gotta be very clear with men. So it's good that you went with that one.
Yeah.
And admittedly at the time, I'd had a little bit of Dutch courage. We had spent sort of 2 weeks chasing each other around. I was secretary of the Arthurian Society at this point.
Wow.
And the whole point of that society was keeping the Arthurian legends behind, wasn't so that we could drink mead and make all the boys wear leather trousers at all. And I was currently trying to find Dean in full. I had my full medieval get-up, and I was running around the whole university trying to find him. And he was actually lurking in, it was one of the downstairs bars called Smith's with Ian. And it was like, right, let's not stop messing around. And that's when we started role-playing together.
Yeah. And it's been, role play has been such a big part of our lives. And it's I think there's been a few years in fact, probably less than a year where I wasn't role playing. Had grown very disillusioned with everything. Gave it up for a little bit of time. Had to recharge the batteries, but otherwise, since we got married, what
29 years next
29
year,
years.
Dean. 29 years next
29
year.
years ago.
Wait a minute. Come on. 29 months?
No.
Yes.
29 years, and apart from possibly a year, we have been role playing every single time during those 29 years. And
were you guys in university when you were 7 years old? What? I don't understand how this is possible.
We were both mature students, which is quite a laugh. So I went to uni when I was 21, but we got married at university. There was no messing around.
Within about 18 months we were married.
It was so the best thing is that Christmas Dean bought me an eternity ring, and he was trying to get me a Babylon 5 jacket, and we couldn't find one, so he bought me a Deep Space Nine jacket, which was I've still got it now. It's cool. It's leather, awesome. But it's got the full space station on the back. And that was Christmas. He proposed to me the 29th of February. So we met in the October. February proposed on the 29th, so he could get it in before me. April, we moved in together. We saw the vicar in June. Yep. And then not that July, but the following July, we were married. So we were married at university.
Excellent.
It's all Ian's fault.
I think getting married in university is more acceptable when you're already a mature student.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's when you're 18 and you get married in university that's a little sketchy. So with your role playing and sci-fi loves, is that something that always kept going? Or, a lot of people, like when they're at university, you sort of have time for those things, and then you get out in the real world and it sort of dips off, at least for a while. Or is that what happened to you, and then you got back into it? Or it was like, no, there's always time for gaming.
Always times. Sorry.
Basically, while he chokes to death, honestly, I'm not trying to poison my husband before this, right? Just in case. So basically,
I'm okay.
That's fine. Basically, what happened is that we stayed with the same group from university, and we all role played for at least the sort of next 15 years weekly. It got to the point where we dropped down to every other week. But other than COVID, we barely ever took a break. When we were at university, we were doing 24 hours, 48 hours. That had to die off a bit. And then, of course, we had challenges. When I actually worked out in India for 6 months, we even role played with me remote before all of this technology really existed. It was dire, but we did it. So I was actually out in India with the rest of the group, and I was on a laptop in the corner. So even when we were doing stuff like that, we still managed to role play. We've barely ever taken a break, and I think COVID was the biggest thing that put a dent in our playing.
Yeah, COVID was hard. I wasn't comfortable with running a game online. I am a lot more comfortable now, and I'm happy to do that. But at the time, I wasn't comfortable. So
tech was rubbish.
Yeah, the tech was terrible, and there wasn't. We were playing 5th edition at the time.
Okay,
and
nice.
I'd only kind of we'd just finished a Tyranny of Dragons campaign, which was my first foray into the rules and getting used to it. And then I just started my own campaign, and the styles of campaign I ran wouldn't translate very well at that stage to an online play. I didn't understand the tools I had at my disposal. The rule sets seemed a bit weird. And I think they've improved a lot over that time. So I missed role playing terribly during COVID.
It was hard.
It was.
We just had to play, 2-player board games all the time.
All the time. And we put a lot of hours into Civilization 5 and 6 during that time.
And Diablo.
And Diablo, yes.
All right. Since you mentioned Civilization, which version do you prefer, 4, 5, or 6?
5 for me.
5 for you. I love 5 for the hot seat. I love 4 for the mechanics. We played a lot of 6, but the AI was terrible in 6. And 7, I've got 7. Not a big fan.
Interesting. I haven't tried 7 yet.
It feels like it wants to be a 4X, but it's just missing the mark. There's something a bit off about it. I imagine in a couple of years, a couple more updates, it might actually be a really good 4X game. But right now, it just feels a little lackluster.
Jack, jumping ahead here. So first of all, we'll get into your question in just a second, Jack. So Untold Destiny, springing that on us. I had talked to you a little bit behind the scenes when I was on your channel, and you had mentioned that originally you had considered using D&D 5, whatever, for Untold Destiny. Give us a quick overview of Untold Destiny and what made you finally say, you know what, this 5e isn't going to cut it. We need our own rules.
I'm going to let Dean answer this one because it's been a very long, convoluted journey that we went through to actually sit down and go, this needs to be not 5e. We need to do it ourselves. And Dean can explain it far more eloquently than I can.
I can. The one thing I have always done is house ruled systems, because whilst around the table, a general set of systems is fine, you will find you want to customize it to the way that you play the game or the way that you want the players to engage with the game. So back, I think it was about 2008, I began to look at designing my own system, more of a sci-fi because Untold Destiny started as a sci-fi setting. I love my sci-fi, I love my fantasy, and we had a lot of fantasy stuff. We had D&Ds, and we didn't have anything sci-fi other than things like Shadowrun. You had Traveller, but Traveller's, it was a bit too much of a bulky system for what I was looking for. So I spent years going back and forth. Again, my mate I mentioned, Ian, we would sit down, we would go through different mechanics, we'd look at different role-play systems, we'd look at, okay, how could this be used in this kind of a setting? It was back and forth over probably, I think when we looked at it, it was a good probably 5, 6, 7 years of back and forth, coming up with some systems that didn't quite work, didn't do what I needed them to do. And it was because I was stuck in this needing big numbers. Everything at the time, the kind of the meta of tabletop role play was having numbers that kind of went from 1 to 20 or higher, so that at high levels, nothing at low levels would be a threat, and at low levels, something high level would kill you. And it was that kind of balance, and I felt that needed to be done. That balance needed to be maintained. So I never actually settled on something I liked. And then I started running, I had a heavily house-ruled second edition game that we were running. I didn't like, the one thing I was noting, we started running it as it was intended, and that was great, but I was making a note of the areas where time was being taken around the table. One of the areas, a lot of people go, spellcasters take a lot of time. No, they take a lot of time if they don't know what they're doing and they're looking up spells and they're trying to get that information. The biggest culprits are martial characters with multi-attacks. Multi-attacking is by far the biggest time sink for a character's action or player's action. So I created a set of house rules. I expanded on the proficiency system, and I brought the attacks down to just 1 attack. But if you had multi-attacks, you gained extra weapon damage on that 1 attack. And that was working really well. And then we moved to Pathfinder. And this is where I started bringing in some of my concepts for Untold Destiny. So I house ruled it I brought in things like your hit points coming back. I brought in a wound-based system, stuff like that. But Pathfinder is heavily mathematical. There is a lot of numbers. I hated the multi-attack was even worse in Pathfinder because you had the -5, the -10, -50, and it broke me. It actually broke me. This is where, when I said I kind of gave up role playing at that, it was this that did it. Pathfinder's heavy maths, Pathfinder's incredible power creep, and Pathfinder's the players could not be challenged. I had 3 power gamers at the table, and one of them lives in Reddit and had a Reddit build, which was just abusive as anything. Another one is just a natural power gamer. They'll pick up rules and they'll find the way to get the most out of it. And they played an Oracle with certain disadvantages that meant they could constantly be healing. And it did my head in. When I came back and felt I'd rested, it was the 5e system we adopted. And it opened my eyes to the fact that you can have a small number range and it can work at the table. And I began to see the possibilities of being able to build Untold Destiny with this kind of squished number range and having the challenge come through in damage that goes up and hit points that go up. That's not to say 5e is perfect. There were a lot of issues we had. I think one of the issues was just stagnant combat.
High level. And high level was just awful.
High level, it just broke down completely. I ran a high level campaign up to about 23rd. We had epic levels. But again, the multi-attacking was slowing the game down a lot. The huge number of hit points on certain characters. Well, I had a barbarian in the game, 400 plus hit points. And then the lowest was, I think, your mage had 120.
Yeah, something like that.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, so you got this huge difference in hit points, and trying to create challenging environments, challenging encounters was difficult. But I thought, do you know what? This is a great starting point. I can actually modify this and use this. I'll do it under the OGL, which was great. And then 2023 happened. And I kind of went, yeah, we're not doing that. And then one of the executives, Kyle Rinks, did what he did on one of his on a live stream. And I went, fine, you don't want my kind of person at your table, then I'll invent my own game. I think Bender did it best, where he from Futurama, I'll create my own casino with, and I decided I would create my own casino. So at that point, I sat down with Vickey, Ian, another good friend of ours, John, and I had a first set of rules, which is, look, I want to capture the classic age of role play, but I want it to work in a more modern kind of setting where the maths is hidden and the game just flows. And version 1 came out. Yeah, I took him through version 1, and that was in beginning of 2023. And then it was a good starting point. It was rough. It needed a lot of work. And come August, Vickey turned around to me and, what did you say?
Well, I woke up in the middle of the night, decided that because the bit that Dean sort of missed out was back in 2012. I convinced him to give up work.
Yes.
And told him to go and follow his dream and create games. When he was talking about this, he has been creating games since I've known him. We've created dice games, we've created card games, we've created all sorts. Even once when we were at university, we packaged up a game and sent it into...
it was Westwood. It was a card game for Command and Conquer.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
We did and we even packaged it. We didn't know what we were doing. We even packaged it, sent it to them. Of course, it came back unopened. But we created a LARP system. We've been doing stuff in the background for eons. In 2012, I told Dean, you're not happy being an IT director. Leave work, focus on your dream. So he did. And that's worked really well, because then you've got time to dedicate to it. And so when it came to August 2023, we'd been playing a little bit of it. It was flowing really well. and it was already something I wanted to play. Now, I will always look at it from a player's point of view, which means we're really good in this sort of yin yang sort of way, because Dean will try and look at it from a GM's perspective, and as a player I'll go, well, how does it play? By now I didn't want to play anything else, and this was when it's quite raw, and it was like midnight. I'd woken up, couldn't sleep, and I made the sort of decision that that's it. This is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're going to do. And we will take this to market, because we have to share this with other people. Because if a game makes me feel this good and makes me want to play, then it will make other people feel this good and will make them want to play. So I sort of did it right. And then I booked us into the UK Games Expo.
We had high hopes. We spoke to a few people.
Let's just go for it.
Everybody said, just do a Kickstarter. It's dead easy. They fund, you get the money you want, just convince people.
Yep.
We looked at the UK Games Expo, and there was a press event and everything. So we thought, this is it. We're going to get in front of the press. We're going to sell the vision of this game, and we're going to get this Kickstarter kind of moving, and we'll be able to do the first release.
Now, the first thing I'd say is we went to the UK Games Expo, and it was epic.
It was awesome.
It was absolutely awesome. And both of us are actually, we don't always come across as introverted, but we're actually quite shy and introverted. And it really pushed us out of our comfort zone, because I think there was something like 60,000 people that came to the UK Games Expo, something like that. Good. It was massive.
It was huge.
And we were running. So we had, it was myself and Dean and our friends Ian and John. And Dean was running games and just people racking up a 45 minutes one shot. And considering the fact we had absolutely no social media presence at all, we've got no contacts in the industry, people loved playing. And we had a couple sort of pledged 500 for sort of artwork as well as everything out there. Wow. And then. Now, we ploughed our life savings into the artwork for that UK Games Expo. We ploughed every penny we had, making sure that we could demonstrate what our vision was. The game was, in our minds, finished. More to come on that one. And we were there, and we got so much positivity at the UK Games Expo. It was an absolute high, and I think it really drove it home that we can do this. Yeah. Now the Kickstarter was a bit of a pain because that didn't fund, but that was actually good.
It was, because
it was good.
Yeah. We were
naive.
We were very naive and failing at the Kickstarter. I think it's, I always remember and I forget who quoted it, but there's an American businessman who says, unless you've been bankrupt once, you don't know how to run a company. Because you haven't been through the worst to know whether you can deal with the worst. And God, it was soul destroying. We were at our lowest. We were still reaching out.
Writing around the park.
I know. It was hard work.
It was hard.
Because when I was running these taster sessions, 45-minute, one encounter, people loved it because I brought something brand new. I had a morale system. I had this interactive combat. Everybody was just glued to what was happening, picked up the systems quickly. And
no more phones in the middle of turns. And people were just focused because it is dynamic.
Yeah. And I would say 95% of people who play a one-shot or a taster have gone away saying, look, this is absolutely fantastic. So that was before.
Right, so this is the important bit. That was before. That was well over 12 months ago now.
Yeah.
And the system has taken another leap since. Oh. And that's why I say I'm really pleased we didn't fund.
Yeah. I was still.
Because-
Oh, sorry, Vicky. Carry on.
Because it's fine. You should know me. When I start, you can't stop me. I just so basically, what we found was that we didn't fund the Kickstarter, but we started going, right, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to do it organically. And that to me is one of two things. We were at that point where it was either, oh, it's too hard, we'll throw up our arms and just say life's unfair, sit in the corner, cry a bit, and then go back to to cats walking to our to doing our day jobs, and Dean could go back and work in being a IT director in a law firm again or whatever, or we double down. And we realized that we had no social media presence. We realized that we had to get out there and play more. And so we started something called Business Unusual. So Business Unusual, we had one of our friends from our original table who was happy to go on camera, and John's son and daughter-in-law decided to join us for our live sessions. And what we did,
well, they weren't live.
They were recorded.
Yeah.
But what we did is we took a campaign from first. Now, Dean always said, this is for campaign play. We play long campaigns. We start at first. We basically, he does, because he loves Babylon 5, he's got all these big story arcs, but they've got all these little arcs that go along, and we have sort of side quests and, character driven stuff and all of that. So we're very much focused on campaigns.
Yeah, I'm bearing in mind these arcs, the way I design it, I've got a kind of story arc, but there will be points where the players can really mess things up. And at any point, the players can take things into a different direction, and I will just change the campaign into that direction. So it's still very much player driven, but I understand what the world is what's going to happen in the world if the players don't do anything.
Yeah. So we started doing this, and we started putting this out onto YouTube. So now we've got a YouTube presence, they've got a Facebook presence, then we came onto X and we started doing that. And what we found was that doing this campaign and actually focus on taking the game through, we started noticing things that irritated us. And this was so, like any true designer, Dean has to fix it. We now have a rule, which is no more changes, because going through all of this at the same time, we were also running on weekends. We were running sort of high-level play tests to make sure that it would all flow together. So we were running games on weekends. We were running the filming sessions, which were an all-day session. And we went to a place called the Games Table, which is a purpose-built area where you can do podcasting, gameplay. It's in Rudry in Caerphilly, and it's fantastic setup. So we'd go there, and what we found is that we found all the bits that we needed to fix. If we'd have made the Kickstarter, we'd have been too focused on writing the books as is, and then we may not have found these things. And Dean might not have stumbled onto what I think is the absolute gem, which is his multi-D20 system. Because at the time, we were still in the single D20 zone. But by the time we'd finished running Business Unusual, it had completely turned into something that was even more dynamic than it was when we took it to the UK Games Expo.
Yeah. Our tagline is classic roleplay reimagined. And that was because at the start I was trying to think, okay, this is how things are done. So I've used AD&D as a baseline because it's one of the most played systems, and it's the one that means the most to me. It's a classic system, and I thought, well, what if things were different, and taking it from there.
Oh, interesting. So I am very curious about this multi D20 system. As an American, I am very sympathetic to the idea if one D20 is good, more than one D20 is better. But how does
So much
how does it
better.
translate in into actual gameplay?
Okay. One of the things I've always had a bit of an issue with is to reflect skill. I've got a fighter. My fighter's got +5 to hit. For me to be better than someone else who's got +4 to hit, I probably need to be like a +7 or +8 to have that difference.
Okay.
Yeah, because the bigger the difference reflects how much better I am than someone else.
Right.
Otherwise, the D20 swing is there's a huge overlap of where you can fail and the other person can succeed. So you don't feel like you're getting more powerful unless your numbers get far bigger. And this becomes the big problem. And even 5e kind of suffered it with having your proficiency +6 added to your attribute, which could be +5 if you focused on it with improvements. You're then talking a number of +11. You got a +3 weapon. That's now +14. All these numbers are beginning to get quite big. And then you've got other ways of increasing those numbers. And you have to do that to be able to show how much better you are compared to other people. So the attribute becomes a minor factor in all of this. And I wanted the attribute to be far more impactful. I also wanted the maths to be, the bell curves to be a little bit more bell curvy rather than an even distribution. And it always reminded me of, people who use fumble rules. Yeah. And they go, if you roll a 1, you fumble. And everybody goes, okay, well, I'm a fighter. I get 4 attacks a round. I'm 4 times more likely to fumble in a round because I got 4 chances of rolling a 1 compared to a rogue who might only get the 1 attack and only has the 1 chance. So I actually look more incompetent, even though I'm the better fighter. And I've never liked that kind of concept. The D20, what you end up with is, and it happens a lot in 5e, you look more at, you're rolling that 1d20 and you're hoping that 1d20 is high. And if it's not high, you're crushed because you're not going to make it. And you've got an equal chance almost of failing as you have of succeeding. And I think from a player's point of view, you kind of get demoralized if you're rolling that 1d20. And John, I mentioned him earlier, he has the worst luck in the world. He rolls a d20 to attack and it comes up low. So I brought in a system called, what was it called? The double efforts. Double efforts. So you could, in combat, if you roll a dice, you could double efforts, roll a second dice. And everybody used it. So I thought, right, bake it into the system. Don't make it an additional step. And that's when I said, if you're proficient with a weapon, you get to roll 2 dice. And that worked really well, but I still had these numbers being added to other numbers. And then I came on to the brainwave of, why do we not separate your level of skill from your attribute? All skills relate back to an attribute. In AD&D, you always had attribute checks, so your attribute was the most important thing. So if you are proficient, you get to roll a d20. Add your attribute. There's no other modifiers, and you need to get 20 or higher. And it's a fixed DC, because I had a game where the players were doing lots of great stuff, but I was constantly having to come up with numbers as to how difficult or how easy things were. And the one thing I've tried to eliminate in Untold Destiny is DM fatigue, where the DM's making too many minute decisions and it takes away from what you should be doing, which is helping drive the story forward and getting the players engaged. So I said, right, DC 20, everything you need 20 or higher. So you might have a standard intelligence, 10 intelligence, that's a +5 bonus. We don't have negatives. You roll your 1d20 because you're proficient, you need a 15 or higher. Sounds straightforward. If you're an expert in the skill, you now roll 2d20s, take the highest. If you're a master, you roll 3d20, take the highest. All of a sudden, your percentage chance of succeeding without any external factors, your percentage chance of succeeding goes up in a strange way. If you're already really good, so you've got like an intelligence of 18, which is +9, the percentage increase is only slight because you've already got a high chance of succeeding, getting that 20, and you're creeping ever closer to it. If you've got a low attribute, your percentages go up a lot quicker, but you're still behind anybody with a higher attribute ahead of you. Plus, then you got the averages coming in. And I got spreadsheets that go through all of this, but the short of it is, consistently, someone who is better trained will generally roll higher than someone who isn't. And the attribute difference now becomes a bigger factor than it's ever been. So you can have a low attribute, but you could be incredibly well trained. And on average, you're going to probably be rolling higher than someone who's less trained, but with a higher attribute. So training becomes a big factor. Your attribute becomes a big factor. And the maths is that simple. You're rolling a D20, you're adding your attribute. But I hear you say, well, what if something's easier or more difficult? How do we do those modifiers? Well, we've got a boon and bane system, and I came up with this. I'd like to say, before I heard it mentioned in things like, I think Daggerheart has one, a lot of other systems have one, boons and banes. And it's a great way of instead of having advantage, disadvantage, boon, bane. But ours work very differently. And I wanted a little bit more granularity to how it worked. So we have a greater bane to a bane, to a normal, to a boon, to a greater boon. It's kind of like a pendulum. So you're trying to climb up a cliff. It's pouring down with rain. You're using athletics, and athletics goes off your strength skill. So the player goes, right, I want to make this roll. As a DM, I can say, look, the conditions are terrible. You've got a greater bane. You're going to be rolling a d10 and subtracting it from whatever you get as a result. The player then, looking at their character sheet, goes, oh, hang on. Yes, I've got this ability. It gives me a boon when I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do. In which case, you've now only got a bane. So you're now rolling a d6 and subtracting it. And this pendulum, it's a great way of players then working together. I've even got a big example in our book of how climbing up a cliff and then someone uses like engineering to try and fix the rope in a way to make it easier. So they're taking a bit of a risk to go up, but then they give everybody else a bonus to succeeding on that roll, and all because they've got a mage who's terrible, hasn't got athletics, and has a terrible strength. So they're trying to maximize that player's chance of getting up this cliff safely, so they can they can continue their journey. So the multi D20 system was, I think it's when I came out of hospital, I kind of came up with it. I had a gallbladder removed. It was terribly infected. Oof. But it was the time spent, A, in hospital, having time to think, and B, before then I was in a lot of discomfort, had constant pressure around there, and having all of that lifted, it almost meant the brain started to work differently. And I was playing back a lot of the business and usual stuff and thinking through what was happening, the steps that were happening. And at that point I went, yeah, there's still a bit too much maths in the system, because we had skills that added to your attribute, and then you rolled multi up to 2d20. 3d20 if you were grandmastered, and it just didn't feel elegant. And this does. So when you get training, the first point of training you get is proficient, then you become an expert, then you become a master, but you can only master in a certain number of skills. So you've got to really pick and choose. You can also focus on a skill, and that gives you another bonus d20. So you could get up to 4d20 when rolling a skill. So that's the multi-skill, the multi-D20 system that is at the heart of Untold Destiny. And Vicky, how do you find that as a player?
Well, one, I like rolling lots of D20s. It's just awesome. And it flows really well. And it's really easy, because you just go, I've got 3D20 or I've got 2D20. It just makes it simple. And you've just got your attribute, and I find it's fast. It doesn't, and the best thing is that you generally know what your DC is. Your DC is normally 20. The other thing is Dean's got rid of AC, so we don't have ACs in Untold Destiny either. And when you're actually playing, it flows. And one of the things I always hated, now I love my spellcasters. People will always hear me say, I love my spellcasters. And I never understood why someone would come up to a spellcaster and try and smack him in the face, and they would not move out the way. You know, it's just like, yeah, just come on, hit me. You know, it wouldn't happen. You know, you'd move. And what I love is the fact that with the D20 system, I can do things like I can invest as a mage in dodge. So when that great big fighter gets past my meat shield and comes after me and takes a swing, I can duck, which I actually think's really good. And it makes playing your characters that much more immersive. And adding on top of the D20 system is the fact that you can dodge and you can parry and you can do things, and you can do things to help your mates. And I found that's kept me far more engaged at the table. There's 5e, I always used to notice people would be like, oh, I love my turn, and then get out their phone, because other people having their turns. Not with Untold Destiny, people are glued, because you can do so much to help other people, to interrupt. You can react to what the bad guys are doing. You can react to what your mates are doing around the table. If you're in melee with someone and your ally is next to you and they take a swing and it looks like it's going to be a glancing blow, well, you can sort of get in there and sort of push the bad guy into his weapon more. And that just promotes teamwork. And I think that makes such a difference.
Yeah. The very first version of Untold Destiny we had, the one that we demoed at the UK Games Expo, one of the mechanics I brought in right at the start is I wanted more interactive combats. I hated this kind of tennis combat where it's my turn, I roll dice, I deal damage, because there's nothing the enemy can do short of using a shield spell or something like that to prevent me from doing that. And then when it comes to my turn as a DM, I eventually got to a point where I was just using random dice rollers to save me time as a DM and just rolling dice and then giving the players their damage. It was lackluster. No one was invested around the table. It was a waste of time, really. So at the heart, we brought in two things. One is a stamina system to govern the use of all martial-based or physical-based abilities within combat, so that we had a means of you using them and running out of stamina and becoming pretty much defenseless. And number two was the reaction system. So we had reactions and reaction triggers. It all works really straightforward. So the example Vickey gave there is there is an aid ally reaction. An aid ally is you spend a stamina. Every reaction just costs 1 stamina. It's nice and simple. But when your ally is attacking someone, you can spend a stamina and add a d6 to their attack roll, so long as you're in melee with the target they're attacking. And this is, so it could even be a wizard is lobbing a bolt and they make their roll to hit and it's not looking great, but you're in melee, you go, right, stop, stamina, roll a d6, add that much to your attack. And it's these mechanics that just bring the players together as a group and make sure that so long as they work together, they can absolutely rule combats. If they stop working together, things can fall apart fast. So if you've got, and we've had one in one of our games, a player that's very much, no, it's my stamina, I'm only going to use it for me. you will have these attacks that come in. And to understand why it's so important, all the numbers are recommended to be rolled openly and be discussed. It's not metagaming. I find it's informing the player as to what's going on in the battle so that they can react as their characters would react. So I've got a creature that is very nimble. A player rolls a 25 to their attack. They're like 25. The creature just does a dodge, gets 30 in the dodge. Instantly, they now know that creature leapt out the way super fast. They swung at air. They know how difficult it is. I could have got a lucky dodge roll. They don't know, but they know how difficult it is to hit that creature. So they either wear the creature down, removing its stamina and preventing it from dodging, or dodging with a heavy penalty, or they get teamwork. So someone rolls, they get a 27, and they go, look, guys, this got a 30 on its dodge last time. Can someone help? Someone in combat then goes, yeah, aid ally, let's add that d6. Let's try and pump your attack up as fast as possible, as high as possible, so you can actually connect with the creature. Damage is very, it can be very spiky, and it is not uncommon for you, if you're in a terrible position, to lose half your hit points in one go. It's rare, but it can happen. Typically, you're losing like 20-25% of your hit points per attack. So you do not want to be hit. And when you're attacking an opponent, you do not want to miss. So yeah, it works really well. And I think it's kept the players engaged around the table.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So on a more macro level, we have some game systems like D&D and Pathfinder, which are fairly setting agnostic, meaning the specifics and the flavor of a setting sort of get bolted on later with like campaign guides and whatnot. And then you have other settings like maybe a Shadow Dark, or it seems like Richard Witter's new Rudiger's Almanac, where the setting itself is kind of baked in to the game system itself. What can we expect with Untold Destiny?
We have built Untold Destiny with our setting of Kaseya in mind. However, what we found is that because the rules are they just work so well, you can lift and shift it to any setting you want. So, for example, what we saw with when we played your game, Yang, you could easily adapt that with Untold Destiny. It is pretty much, we have, because we both love stories. I think that's the best way to explain it, is we both love stories. Therefore, you know, we've actually got a timeline that's going back from when humanity left Earth right the way up to where Kaseya is now. And we actually have the whole sci-fi setting is still there, and it's still in our heads, and one day it will be coming out. But that actually happens before where we are now with Kaseya. So we've got a full timeline. We know how it all bolts together. So it is integral with our system. But the actual rules themselves, the actual spells, the actual way that it all goes together, you can lift and shift that to anything.
Yeah. The way I would put this is early editions of AD&D were typically set in the Greyhawk world. So the gods they would give as example gods were like St. Cuthbert and stuff like that. But you could still take those rules and run them in any setting. The one thing I'm very aware of is I think a poll was done several years back, and it was asking DMs if they play in settings or their own custom creations. And I think it was something like 80% of DMs prefer to run their own worlds. For that reason, I wouldn't tie Untold Destiny too tightly into Kaseya. I think what we're providing in the way of a setting is absolutely fantastic, and it's the one I use. But the rules are just rules. There is nothing in the rules that relies on the world to work. So you can just take those rules, play them anywhere. Yeah.
Interesting. So tell us a little about Kaseya. So it's interesting that you mentioned you start off humanity lands on Kaseya, which you know, that was kind of sort of an idea back in the day.
Actually, they create Kaseya.
Oh, they create Kaseya.
Yeah. So the sci-fi version is actually how humanity goes out to the stars and actually learns how to birth planets themselves and create the ideal living conditions. So Kaseya has been created by humans who have left Earth. This comes back to the origins of what we actually did, which because we're both sci-fi nuts, was Arthur C. Clarke. And he said, you know, there's two possibilities. We're either alone in the universe or we're not. Both are equally terrifying. So what we did is we took that and we extrapolated that. What happens if we are alone? You know, what would actually happen? And Dean did this amazing, the actual stuff, the sci-fi is brilliant. And I look forward to being able to show that to you one day. But we extrapolated it out. But what we found is, as much as we love sci-fi, we love playing fantasy. So at that point, we sort of took where we'd got to with the sci-fi setting, we shelved it, but we'd fallen in love with Kaseya as a world. And so we moved it into the future, and there is something called the Ashfall. Now, we know what the Ashfall is, but nobody on Kaseya does. All they know is that it basically decimated the world. And the races upon Kaseya, very, very few survived, and Kaseya itself was integrally changed by this disaster that happened. The third moon fell, ash descended, and the small pockets of civilization came out of that ash. But most of those didn't survive. The world was more dangerous. The world had changed.
Dragons had returned. From where mythological creatures that were only dreamt of suddenly became real. So you had 3 mighty empires before. They built incredible structures using aether, which is our form of magic. And those empires completely, overnight, when the Ashfall happened and the third moon fell, those empires crumbled. And their ruins can still be seen today. They can be explored. We did, one of the first versions of Kaseya had a very sci-fi kind of leaning to it, but I decided to cut that completely out. It's very fantasy based. So you're not going to come across laser guns or anything like that. Nothing technological. This is a pure fantasy setting. So when you're playing it, when you're playing in Kaseya, you look back at these 3 empires. They built incredible things using magic. And then something happened to magic and those empires fell. And now you're 824 years later, nations have rebuilt. The wilderness has been slowly reclaimed, but it's very much a point of light campaign. Very dangerous world. You need to go out prepared. Otherwise, you're not going to come back.
Interesting. So, since you mentioned that the system of itself, even though it's sort of geared to be played in a Kaseya setting, it is somewhat agnostic, so people can do whatever they want. Jack would like to know, what tools does the game provide for creating a starter town, or do you have a default starter town?
So we actually have a whole default sort of starting area on Kaseya, should you want to. And we've got something called the Harbour Protectorate. Now, this, I think when I calculated it, and Dean knows how good my maths is, it was about 625,000 square kilometres, wasn't it? It was
something around there. It's quite a vast area.
Yeah, it's a large area, but within there we've got different pockets of civilization, and you can choose to start anywhere that you want within those pockets of civilization. A lot of people choose harbour. You can also randomly choose where you're coming from and things like that. So we have got a lovely starting area for you to start your journey with Untold Destiny on Kaseya. So there's a lot of information that we are including with this. We've built out all of the information around harbour. We've built out a lot of the different surrounding areas. So we've got Linchet, we've got
Swanton.
I'm trying to remember.
Swanton, Midway, down to Endaria, then across to Ordovus.
The Swan one. Yeah. For example, Midway is actually in the middle of a large lava flow. And this is one area where you've actually got bridges that go over the lava flow into the main area. And then all of that's where there's lots of forges set up, etc. And you've got the lava hopper. You can actually take a background and be a lava hopper where you can actually jump. You've learned how to maneuver your way through the lava flow using the sort of clumps of sort of hardened lava that flow down here. So, and you're better with gases and stuff like that. So we've got a fully fleshed out starter area. We actually designed the full world, but it was going to take too long to do the whole world. I was quite willing to just crack on and go and do that. But as Dean said, we didn't have the next 53 years to get it done. So that's why we restricted it to a small starting area. And even that is vast and will give you absolutely tons to be able to explore.
Yeah, you're talking about spending 40 days traveling from one side to the other. Of course, we do not have teleportation magics. There's a number of things that I've never liked in AD&D and D&D. Teleportation is the first. In real worlds, if you had teleportations in the real world, think how radically different our civilizations would be.
Sure.
You would have a merchant who would go, they're short of steel in this part of the world. Right. Teleport, just send a cart of steel. Let's make a killing. And all of a sudden that shortage is no longer relevant. And how do they know there's a shortage? You've got the second thing I really didn't like. Instant communication and divinations that are too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So the world that should be vast and feel, when you're somewhere in your fantasy world, you should feel that you're the only people kind of there with that part of civilization. Anything beyond that, you get rumors of what's happening beyond those borders. But otherwise, there's news travels as fast as a fast rider. So if something goes down, if there's an orc band about to attack, you can't just go, oh, well, we'll send word back to the capital. They'll teleport some wizards in to deal with it. You've got to deal with it, or you've got to flee.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, that is one of the potential problems of any system, like you said, teleportation and instant communication, where it does make it too easy. I don't necessarily mind having it per se, but it has to be in such limited quantities that only like the very elites will have it, and it'll be hush hush. Certainly not something that the average person or even like a mid-level town mayor or whatever would have, because otherwise it's just boring.
Yeah. And it does tend to break a world if everybody knows what's happening across the world. The world becomes so much smaller. I mean, you look at it with the internet, our world is minute now. We're all, even though we are thousands of miles apart from each other, we're all together on the internet as one big happy family-ish.
Yeah. And if there's video of like a bus going into a ravine in Kashmir, then we see that and everyone's, oh my gosh, it's terrible. Whereas 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you never would have heard about that.
No, you wouldn't have. No. You wouldn't have. What would have mattered to you most is where you were and the people around you. Yeah, absolutely.
But one of the things that I found is that I've always had a love of the sort of classic fantasy. So I was into Tolkien, I was into Moorcock. I loved the Belgariad and the Malorian and all of those books. And guess what? They walked. Oh, they had horses. And the journey was actually integral. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I absolutely hated when it came to role playing is that we always wanted to get rid of the horses or not have to rely on travel so fast when we were playing D&D. And I want Bill the donkey. I want to have to think about how I'm going to get from one place to another. And I want that journey to be part and parcel of my adventure. Can you imagine, teleport, oh, Gandalf, we've got to take this ring. It's got to go over there. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll go tomorrow. What we'll do is we'll just pop over there, pop it in the volcano, and we'll be back. We can pop into Rivendell then for tea. How does that sound?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, people are already complaining about the eagles.
Exactly.
Yes.
Can you imagine a teleport?
Yeah.
And you look at Tolkien and you look at the amount of time Gandalf spent going from place to place doing research and digging into what this ring actually was. And I'm just gonna do a quick send to Saruman. Oh, it's that, right? Okay, what we're gonna do about it? Well, quick, let's just get Sue in on a call. No, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I want that epic journey.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the hero. and I want to see how my character grows. And it can't do that if everything is made shortcutted and easy by having teleports.
I agree. So Cyrus wants to know, can the game be played solo?
I think any game can be played solo if you build the support structure around it to do so. There's no reason why it couldn't, but I will say we went into Untold Destiny with the idea of collaborative role playing as one of the cornerstones. So it would work very well as a computer game, for example, where you're controlling a squad and you're having to use the reactions of all the people around in the squad. You're having to balance the individual stamina pools of each of these. So you're having to decide how you go in. Our combats are incredibly tactical in their nature. So I'd have to say it could work as a solo game, but I think you would lose some of the heart of what is Untold Destiny.
And he would also like...
We need to check to see what we could do. Maybe that's a side quest for us. I like the side quests, where we could actually see about solo play, where you actually take your NPCs with you or something. We will think about that one. We're going to think about that one.
Yeah, there's always hirelings.
And exactly.
He would also like to know how many random events may happen in travel. And I think as a follow up to that, I would say, do you have it sort of set up in the travel where if somebody wanted it to be like a traditional hex crawl, are there like random tables for various encounters, or how do you work the travel in that way?
Yeah. So we focused on the player's handbook, but we got a lot of notes that are going into the grimoire, the Games Master's grimoire, the GMG. Within there will be all the tools to manage this side of the adventure. The random checks you make depend on a couple of factors. So typically you'll roll a d20 and it will be rolled a number of times per day based on how dangerous the area is. So if you're closer to civilization, you may not roll at all. You're a bit further away, you might only have that one roll. So the GM will make that one roll. If it comes up, typically a 4 or lower, you've got a random encounter. However, as a group, you can do things to reduce the chance of that random encounter. So when you make camp, you can find a suitable camping spot. You can camouflage your camp. You can then put alarms out on your camp. This is all contained within a camping kit. So it's got all these materials for you to do this. What it means then is you're very difficult to spot. I now need to roll a 1, but you're in an incredibly dangerous area. I'm rolling a d20 every 30 minutes because you're now in the heart of evil. There are creatures everywhere. So I am bound to roll a 1 at some point, but your camp's hidden. So can they find it? And if they can find it, so you're immediately in a better position as players. And I did this when I'd ran a 3-parter for Jack. Where they made camp, they made all their rolls, and a goblin patrol was passing by, couldn't see their camp, but they had then the chance of jumping on the goblin patrol if they wanted to and taking the patrol out, and they decided to let the patrol go. The random encounters are not designed that if you roll, a dragon's appeared, it's going to kill you. It's no, a creature has appeared or a creature's in the area. Can it see you? Can it spot you? And if it can spot you, if you've got early warning systems up around your camp, likelihood is, even if it's invisible, it'll trigger one of these. You become alerted to the fact that something's now getting close to the camp. So there's a full set of rules around camping and surviving in the wilderness. And yeah, these are things like when you create a camp, we've got what's considered downtime. So your adventuring day is typically 8 hours of travel, 12 hours of sleep, and 4 hours of setting up and breaking camp. And these 4 hours are just kind of it's a downtime action. So a group could turn around and say, one person could say, look, I got all the camping stuff. I got a good survival skill. I'll set up the camp and do all of that. Someone else can go, look, I'm a great hunter. I'm going to go out, do some trapping. Let's get some fresh meat. Someone else can then say, well, you know what? I'm a really good cook. I got a cooking kit with all the special herbs in it. Bring back your fresh kill. I will cook us up a nice meal, and that will give us a big bonus for the following day, because now we got a hearty meal in us, and we're feeling really good. And then someone else can say, look, guys, we're running a bit low on certain flasks, and I'm a herbalist. Do you know what? I'm going to spend some time foraging, or I've got a herbalism kit, and I'll create some flasks that might aid us. We know we're going up against poison creatures. Let me create flasks of antitoxin ready for the next day. So we've got a full crafting system in there that is designed to be used outside of a city. So when you're on the road, so you're not having to be back at base to create your items. You can create them whilst you're on the road. And this is typically with the downtime system.
Interesting. I am curious, how do you handle hit point regeneration? You know, back in the 1E days, you were lucky to get 1 hit point back at night. In the 5E days, you get everything back with a long rest. How do you work that in Untold Destiny?
Okay, so
Great.
yes, it was quite early on that I found trying to have scarce resources created more problems than it solved. The adventuring day, it's what I call the stop-start adventuring day. And the example, adventurers go into the dungeon. First encounter, bit of a tough one. Warlock uses up all his spell slots. Warlock's going, can I have a short rest, please? So, okay, right, let's back out, have a short rest. You then get to the second encounter, really tough encounter. You manage to get through it, but all your healing spent. Now you got the priest going, can we go back out and have a long rest because I've got no healing magics? And then you're back out the dungeon. And the adventuring day just felt stilted. It was back and forth. And so having a look at it, I wanted something more long lasting. I didn't like 5Es, one long rest and everything comes back. And I kind of settled and we tested it and it worked incredibly well. And it got baked into the system and has never changed. At the end of a combat, all your resources come back. Your spell points come back, your stamina comes back, your hit points come back. You spend a few minutes just catching your breath, recovering, it all comes back. You're ready now for the next encounter. What doesn't come back is if you've taken any wounds, they are now on your character until you can heal them. And wounds are the thing that take a long time. So this is your sort of gradual getting closer to death. And this can happen in one combat. We had it in Business Unusual. It was a hard episode. They're up against this demon lord, an orcish demon. And one of the players, she got hit. She took a couple of wounds. She hid. And then while she was being given aid, she popped out and attacked the demon. And the demon went, really? Because she was a wizard, she was actually doing a lot of damage. And the demon then closed with her, and with a couple of swipes, because she had no hit points left, she had very little stamina left, she was down. And it was a character death. Five wounds, and your character's dead. There is no raised deads. There's nothing to bring him back. As part of that, though, there was something else, and Vickey came up with this one. We did have you got dropped to 0 hit points, you got a chance of taking a wound, and you fall unconscious. And Vickey went, it's not much fun as a player being, I've been taken down to 0. I'm now unconscious. I'm waiting. And it led to this kind of, oh, I'm up now. No, hang on. No, I'm back down again.
Yo-yoing, as I used to call it. I just didn't feel right.
No. So Vickey suggested, why don't you just remain conscious until you're dead? And then I was like, well, no, that won't. And then I stopped and went, Boromir, the arrows. He was taking one wound after another, these arrows going into him, and yet he stood and he was fighting these orcs till the bitter end, until that final arrow pretty much took him out. There was a kind of plot armor for him to have his last few words to Aragorn, which very heroic. But we then adopted that. So you are always involved in a combat until your character dies, until you take that 5th wound. And it has led to incredibly tense moments. And you don't feel unfair when you get dropped to 0 hit points, because all that means, all hit points represent, is your character's ability to try and avoid permanent harm. So damage from a fireball is just you leaping to the one side. You got a couple of, a little bit of soot on you, slight burn, but it's nothing. It's going to disappear. Someone stabs at you with a blade. If you got hit points, you've just managed to miss being hit. It's kind of swung in the air, possibly a small nick, something like that. So long as you got hit points, you've avoided harm. The moment you haven't got hit points, you're taking wounds. We've got a wound threshold, which is a quarter of your hit points. If you get damage, overflow damage equal to your wound threshold or higher, it's automatic wounds. Otherwise, you get a system shock saving throw. And it works really well. It means when you're down to 0 hit points, you feel incredibly vulnerable. Almost as much as when you're down to 0 stamina, so you can't use any special abilities in combat, any martial abilities. It means we don't have an AC. My creatures are going to hit you. And the only thing you can do is you're allowed to dodge even with no stamina, but it's at a greater bane. So the likelihood is they're still going to hit you, but you might get lucky.
Yeah, I think one of the things that as a player I love is the fact that it does feel more like the stories I read. So, you know, we can, if there is some task we're trying to do, if there is, you know, someone's been kidnapped, we're trying to save them, we're not going, ooh, but, you know, we've all got to rest and wait for tomorrow for all of our stuff to come back. You're actually on that quest and you're doing that quest and it feels part of the story. And all of the mechanics support the story, not get in the way of the story.
Yeah.
And I love combat. I know some people say that, you know, combat shouldn't be part of role playing. I love combat. Some people
weird people.
On some strange people don't like combat. No. Love combat. No. I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
But it just makes that combat that much more involved. And the fear factor of when you're down at 0 and you're having to make saves to avoid wounds. And I like to think of it as you're being bruised, you're being battered, but you know, you're just hanging on. Every one of those rolls, you're on absolute tenterhooks with it, because you take 5 of those, it is hand over the character sheet. And, you know, there isn't a sort of, oh, well, you can just like pop back in a minute or whatever because someone's got a spell. It feels real. And I also like the fact that you can recover resources during the fights. So you're not reliant on dragging a healer around with you.
In fact,
you yourself have got actions to recover hit points that will also recover some stamina. It's not masses. You don't go from, you know, sort of 3 or 4 hit points up to almost max. It's just little bits, but it's enough to keep you away from some of those nasty thresholds that are sort of threatening those saves that you don't want. So
or the automatic wounds
to look after yourself.
Yeah.
You're more encouraged to look after your character and to sometimes go, well, actually, this my turn. I'm actually gonna take a breath and just heal a bit.
Yeah, because it's called the recovery action.
Yeah.
And it's we don't have healing magics. There are some magics that will restore trickle hit points, but we do not have healing. You got healing kits, and with the healing skill, they can be used to restore. So you can do first aid to someone to give them a load of hit points back. They can also be used to remove conditions. So you're not having to rely on spells, although there are certain spells that can remove conditions in the verdant sphere. So they're priest only. We've one of the core rules I had at the start is I do not want skills that get replaced by magic. So skills, if they're usable at first level, they've got to be usable at 20th. And as far as there might be a couple of slight exceptions with magic, but typically your skills are useful right the way through your career.
Typically magic will enhance your skill, but it will give you the ability. It won't necessarily override someone's innate abilities. If they've already got it, it will just make it a bit better.
Yeah.
And that's really nice, because then your skills matter.
Yeah.
You know, all that training you did, it matters.
We got a spell called Decipher Language, which is a first level spell. It's like a read language spell. It gives you the Decipher Language rogue skill, but with 1 dice. So a rogue will typically be far better if they've got that skill than you casting a spell. But it means it gives you a chance. So yeah.
Interesting. So down at the bottom of the website, there is a countdown that we have 37 days. What are we counting down to?
We are counting down to our complimentary adventure, which is Beneath the Dragon's Gaze. So yeah, that's the one there.
Port Orion.
Yeah, Port Orion. And essentially it's the first part of what we would class as an adventure module. It's a nice way of easing you in. It's got a nice town for you to start off with, which quite circles back round to different starting areas. It's got a lovely starting area, and to give you a chance just to learn the system and to get your feet under the table with it, we've got 8 characters, so pre-generated characters that you can take out. And we've got a lovely dungeon that Dean has created that's essentially close to Port Orion. And it means that you've got that sort of flavour of Untold Destiny in a nice sort of contained area. And it is literally the first part of a whole adventure module that Dean's got planned. And we've played it through, and it's really good fun. But it's even more fun if you like dungeons, and I quite like trawling through dungeons, and Dean's are normally pretty good fun as a player.
I wanted to make sure that the first, so this dungeon is the complimentary part, so it's all for free. And I was following in the footsteps of the greats that have come before. You got a town, you got a dungeon within half an hour, half a day's journey. What more do you need? You've got your base of operations, you've got your site to explore. So it's bringing the kind of adventure right the way back, but the module sets up a far grander, more mysterious thing happening on this island. And it's done in a way, we got flowcharts through there indicating what scenes can happen and what the players can do to influence other scenes, so that when we go into the sandboxy nature, which would be the full adventure module, your GM won't lose track of where you are, what events have happened, or what events are about to happen, so they can really play out the island and describe what's happening to the players.
Very interesting. And let's say somebody wanted to get their hands on Untold Destiny. How would they go about doing that?
Well, right now it'll be when the adventure comes out, so that will be the first port of call, and that will be via the website, as long as I figure out all of the technology behind that. Or we will announce it on X and our other social media platforms of how to get hold of it. It will be absolutely free of charge. We want people to play. And then first part of next year, Dean is going to be running a whole load of one-shots that we're going to put up a schedule for, that people can sign up and come along and actually play. And what we'll be doing is looking at later on in the year, potentially doing another Kickstarter in order for us to get the adventure module and hopefully the books out. So that's the sort of thing we're looking at the moment. We might push the books back to 27. It all depends on how the first adventure module goes and everything else. So that's the focus at the moment.
Yeah. We're also looking at, after the adventure's gone out, releasing the information on the 8 classes that are pre-generated, along with additional information, so you can actually create your own characters and play your own game of Untold Destiny. So similar to what Richard's done with Rutgers, where he's given out a load of play material, we're looking to do the same, to get feedback and just to get people playing and to see what a great system it is.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Looks very interesting, and I'm definitely interested in seeing what you guys come up with and how exactly the multiple D20 system plays. So one other thing, so the first thing that I really noticed that you guys did was actually your classic maps. And this was interesting to me because working on Empire of the Undying Sun. One of my whole shticks is there's going to be these great, really detailed battle maps. It's going to be fantastic. And then, I didn't really think that much about it. I had like one that was done, which unfortunately was the end of the part that you guys were playing in that we didn't get to. And it's like taken up 2 pages in the book, which is fine. But then I go into other chapters, right? And the places you go in are more complex and they're larger, and it's like really, really tiny. And if you're looking at it in the book, you're like, is that a bed? Is that a trap? Is that a secret door? I don't know what's going on. And I got thinking about how it was in the early days of mapping, and it just happened around the same time that you released this. So as someone who is at least attempting to publish games, I can understand the brilliance of these old maps where it's relatively simple and you have like a visual key. So every trap is a trap, basically. Very easy for someone to go through. What prompted you to come up with this system?
Well, I love the cleanness of a classic map. And when running some of the one shots on Roll20 and using lovely detailed maps, they look pretty, and all the rest of it, I found 2 things. One, I was getting lazy. I wasn't describing because it was all there visually for the players to see. And 2, the players were then sometimes getting confused. Oh, hang on, is that a rock I can stand on? Is that something I can go behind? And you start to get too much information. There's too much blurring of colors. I found it just started to take away from what mattered most, which is where the players were, where the creatures were, what was in between, or what could be interacted with. And it got me thinking about how I ran the old games. And it was pretty much graph paper, drawing maps, and then describing what was in the room. And then the players having to visualize it and come back. And I wanted to bring that back into Untold Destiny. So I made a decision. We're going to use the classic blue maps of old. And I then went on to drive through and went, right, let's do a search because I just want to buy some and put it into Incarnate, which is the map making package I used. And I found something close, but it was too cluttered and I couldn't find anything that did what I wanted to do. So I looked at, okay, how difficult is it to make my own? When I started to understand how Incarnate worked. And I started to play with it and I realized it was incredibly, I wouldn't say easy. There's a lot of planning, but once you've done that planning, building the stamps and bringing them together, making sure they line up and they pretty much work out of the box. Or if they don't, because the scale of your map's slightly different, you can rescale it and get it all working. Yeah. And at that point I was like, Vicky, look what I've done. I could sell these.
It was, yeah. And so I said, go on then.
And now fair enough. And so
Paddy's asked about commercial license. If you make a map using this, it's yours.
Yes, you can't sell the stamps as is, but any maps you make with those, they're yours to do with commercially whatever you want. And also working with Affinity, I'm not too sure on Affinity. If it works similar to Incarnate, where you can upload a custom map and you got the snap to grids, then it should work fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I got it earlier today. I haven't had time to monkey around with it, but yeah, it seems like it should work just fine in Affinity or Photoshop or most of the image programs you would have. Interesting.
Dean's even got a little handy tutorial on how to get it all working in Incarnate, and it's all the same thing, snap to grid and all of that.
Yeah, how to do the scaling so the all the tiles match with each other. I think someone on X, actually, the last time I pushed it, someone on X did a whole big thing where they said I downloaded it, uploaded it to Incarnate, and it worked perfectly first time, and started making a whole host of maps. So it's a really good set of tools that I'm actually using for our adventure.
And And is this something that you could see yourself? I don't know if updating is the right word, or continuing with more stamps, or
Absolutely.
different packs.
I've already got a bunch of city stamps put together.
Ooh.
They're not enough that I would be comfortable selling, but I've got a view to expand them. I just ran out of time. So as I expand and as the stamps get to a certain volume, then I might package and put them up on our drive-through.
Excellent. Yeah, for me, I think I am thinking of redoing, since I haven't gone to publish yet, how I have the maps in my book, because it's, when it's cleaner, it really is much easier to read. I'm still okay with battle maps, and anyone who bought Empire: The Undying Sun, yes, you're still getting the battle maps. Don't worry about that. But I think just, when it comes to, like, especially if like, there's certain parts where, I'll have a rather large map, and then I'll, like, have a group of, 3-4 rooms together, and just put, like, a smaller version of the map for that. It's definitely much easier to read, especially when, there's stairs and a secret passage and a trap and hidden loot. It's much easier when it's all clean, and it's like, one symbol for trap every time, regardless of what the trap is. I don't have to worry, like, okay, do I need to draw spikes, a blade, a little flamethrower? No, it's just T for trap, or whatever the symbol may be.
I must admit, I love these because it just reminds me of sitting there when we used to have our long sessions, and we used to actually, Dean would say, and it's like 30 foot, and then you come to a T junction, and then you go looking north, and we used to just draw them. One of us around the table would actually draw out the maps. I got banned after they wrote left and right on my hands because I kept going in the wrong direction. But essentially, it takes you back to those days when you used to sit there around the table, describe it and draw it out. And it does look clean in the books. Dean put it together, and we're using those maps in our adventure, and they look good, and they look good printed. And it's easy to see, and it's easier to describe to people who are reading it. And I think that's really important.
It does. It also frees up the games master to put their own flair on it. So if they've got a way of describing something, they're not shackled by the graphics they see in front of them. They have a room. The important stuff in the room is noted, but the description is left up to them. So they have all the power. They do it the style that they used to.
I think that's a great feature. Especially if how would I say it? I think the type of game that you're trying to run, is important too. I think that there are people who want to run games which closer emulate video games, which I can see. But I think if you are really going back and trying to engage theater of the mind a bit more than I would say what's common these days, this is a great way to really help the DM out. Like, to some extent, you got to just push them in the deep end at some point. And
absolutely, yeah. In fact, it's quite interesting because we did an interview with Mildred about these Final Fantasy Legend Edition, and if I wanted to get around the table and play Final Fantasy with people, which is very much a video game, the system is absolutely perfect. But you are playing a video game, and you go in with that mindset. You're playing a video game. So your mind kind of accepts everything. But I wanted to build something that was pure fantasy, that supported campaign-driven gameplay, and was very character-focused, and encouraged cooperation between the party.
Yeah, and I think that is great, and especially like if you have like a small house or something, okay, a little more detailed, fine. But especially when you're getting these like large dungeon crawls, getting into mega dungeon territory, like, no, it's got you have to present it in a way that's much easier to understand visually.
Yeah, you do. And yeah, free up the mind. Start describing the rooms you're in. Don't just give your players a map that has it. And this happened in Tyranny. I think I was handing out maps, and they went to Pendelver, I think it is, one of the towns. I might have got the name wrong, but I just handed them the map of the town because it was just there, and I didn't have to describe it, didn't draw it out. And I thought at the time, well, this is nice and easy. And then I realized we were missing something. I'd rather spend 5 minutes describing and setting the scene than letting some designer who's put this together set the scene for me. Yeah. And I felt a little bit robbed at the end of that.
I can definitely empathize with that sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, Yang. When you did your one shot, I loved the museum. You drew it out, and it was quite basic, but you had to then describe everything in there, and it was those descriptions just brought the whole thing alive. And I loved it because you had what was necessary for us to play the game, and it didn't need anything more. Your words filled in the gaps.
I appreciate that. So people can go buy the people can buy the maps now. They are available on Drive-Through RPG. Put the link in the chat there again. Yeah, get it for okay. And so and you've got Untold Destiny coming out in, I believe it was 37 days.
Yes.
So where do you see this going in the future? Are you just going to concentrate on Untold Destiny and your world in there, or is it like you mentioned you can't wait until you finish mapping the whole world because it'll never be done? Do you plan on like incrementally releasing modules or campaign guides for that? Or do you say like, well, we also want to make this sci-fi game and we'll go for like a spy game or something? Or what are your plans for Everae Games?
I think at the moment we're definitely focused on Untold Destiny. The aim, so our sort of focus is, first of all, getting our initial adventure out. Once we've got the full books out, then I think it will be, first of all, focus on increasing the world that we've got, because we've already built out this. We've already got the world, we've got the biomes, we've got the geographical structure. But as I said, we've got a small starting area, and then we can slowly start doing additional campaign areas that people can play in. And we're going to be doing that. We want to release adventures. We love adventures and we want to release those. And then when we think it's the right time, we will do Untold Destiny Origins, which is the sci-fi version. And I think that for us, I mean, for the moment, is where we envisage going. I could see Dean doing more map stuff because he was doing them the other day. He told me he was working on the adventure, but
I needed the maps for the adventure.
He was drawing maps. He always says, he's always like, yeah.
We
are going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
To answer Cyrus, yes, we will have a full. I think it's going to be released under the Creative Commons, so there will be a framework, and you are allowed to then use our rules to create your own versions of whatever. The way the rules are set up, they're very modular based. So creating a character, you take a heritage and that kind of slots in. You take your family, that slots in. You take your background, that slots in. You take your class, that slots in. Everything is very modular. So for you to create your own custom content, it's dead easy. And if you decide you don't like one aspect for your world that you want to write a book for, it's so easy to just change it. You can drop it out, or you can just change the rule around it, or you can add your own.
Just change the name. Yeah,
just change the name. So this is how, when we expand into new worlds or new areas. So with the Harbour Protectorate, which is where you start, there's a number of nations and empires around it, and you've got kind of relationships with those. when we go into detail in those, all we need to do is just add more heritages that apply to that area, add more. If there's any unique families, so your family is more your station or rank your family has, we can slot that in, and any unique backgrounds we slot in. Any unique weapons get slotted in. Any bonus features that you can only really get if you come from there get slotted in. It's a beautifully streamlined system where you can just expand quite quickly and easily without upsetting everything that came before.
Nice, very nice. All right, so you guys will be starting your not the playtest series, the playthrough series. Is that
the one shots?
The one
shots.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when did you say you're starting those? In March or?
It'll probably be March, I reckon. By the time we've got, because the adventure's coming out end of January. Then Dean wants to release the rules and everything around character creation, so that you can then, if you want to, and you don't want to just stick with the pre-gens and you want to create your own, that you can go and do that. And then what we'll do is we will kick off all the one-shots. Now, we'd like to do it earlier than March, but I'm also a realist when it comes to the amount of work. There's two of us.
Yeah.
I think we will need a month just to schedule in. So what we need to do is free up slots in our diary, and then we're going to approach people to begin with. So Yang, if you want to be on that list, I'd be delighted to run a one shot for you. So we're looking at slots across certain time zones, and then doing sign-ups or invites, and getting those groups together. We're not looking to live stream or record any unless someone says, could you do a one shot for my channel, and I want to stream it, and then we're happy to do that as well.
Okay, excellent.
So
excellent.
Give people a chance to also try it and feedback, because we've played it substantially now, and we've played it with multiple different groups. We've taken it out to clubs. We feel like one of those rock bands before they become famous. They're going out, they're trying to get everybody to listen to their music, and we've been doing that, and we really do enjoy it. But it'll be really nice to get sort of more people playing it and get some feedback to see what people feel, sort of beyond our sort of small UK microcosm that we've got going on.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. And are there any plans to make it across the pond for any gaming conventions?
Won't be for next year, mainly because we just haven't got the cash, and every spare bit of cash that we have goes into artwork. And that's one of the great things about the classic maps, is it's given us for the first time a little income stream that we can put towards our artwork.
Yeah.
So at the moment I work full time, and then basically we save everything that we can and then plow that into art. We've got some fantastic artists who work with us. But yeah, it's all about the right time, dependent on when we can get books out and things like that.
Absolutely.
So we'd love to.
And Paddy would love to run a one shot for you. So when we're in the position, we'll get in contact and arrange something. So thank you for that offer. Thank you.
So anyone who is looking for a gift for their favorite DM, go check out the maps, which I will throw in once again on DriveThruRPG, and keep your eye out for next year. I'm sure that it will be a very interesting package that we'll see. Oh, that's one thing I meant to ask. So when Untold Destiny is ready, will it be digital only? Will there be a print version? And if there is,
definitely.
How are you going to handle the shipping?
So shipping, I am in contact with some I don't know what to call them. Are they called distributors? But we've got some people who already ship over to the US.
Oh, okay.
And therefore we can actually work with them for some pricing to ship over to the US. obviously it means there's got to be a certain amount of bulk. And what they do is they fit it in with their shipments so that it helps bulk out their shipment and therefore save them a bit of money as well. So we've got a couple of those that are in the pipeline. If that doesn't work out, then I will be looking for printers in the US. So we have a printer here in the UK that we want to use called Goma Printing. Fantastic printing place up in Landesill in West Wales. And they do some phenomenal books. We've got Stitch Bound. It's beautiful. We believe in quality. We want our books to last. And I would look, if shipping proves to be too much, I will be looking for a similar provider in the US.
Okay. Yes, I would like to hear the updates on how that goes. Having issues going the other way.
Yeah,
you should compare notes.
The shipping is actually ridiculous right now. So that's one of the reasons I did start to dig into where I could use in the US to print. Now I know Trollord Games are setting up their own printing in the US, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
they're trying to, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them and their printing, because they are.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
To my knowledge, they already print their own stuff in the US, so that means they already have facilities. So what exactly? I don't know. It sounds like a lot of kickstarting us paying for the privilege of them printing more in the US.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I haven't quite figured out how the economics of that work. So maybe it'll be great. Maybe Trollords is doing us all a great service, or maybe not. We'll have to see how that works.
Yeah, but there's bound to be somewhere that I can find in the US. Yeah. I like digging these things out. When we found the printers that we wanted to use here in the UK, it took a fair bit of finding. But yeah, it's about finding the right fit so that they produce the quality that you want. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when you can't pick it up because it's on your doorstep to go and have a look at and go, well, actually, that's not what I wanted. So when you're talking about the sort of distances, popping on the plane to go and see how it's going isn't quite as much of an option.
Yeah, it's feasible. That is true, unfortunately. All right. Well, everyone, go check out the maps. Keep your eyes posted for Untold Destiny, and go check out Everae
Games.
Everae Games. Okay. I just realized that I was not sure of the British pronunciation. So yeah, Everae Games over at everaegames.com. I am sure you can follow along there, and hey, make somebody's Christmas very happy. So that is kind of it here. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I double checked. It is 8 p.m. with Jack McCarthy. My bad, Jack, if you're still around. So thanks everyone for coming, and hopefully see y'all tomorrow.
Thank you.